we are going to greet everyone who is in attendance tonight with Aleichem Shalom. Unto you be peace and welcome to another Wednesday's edition of our pre-sessions and the 40th volumetric of this gospel. This is the first of two pre-sessions that we host per week as we continue to have an open discussion tonight that evokes questions and answers during tonight's teaching of this gospel. This is the gospel that was promised that would be taught and preached. That's found in the book of the King James Version, Holy Bibles, the book called Matthew, the very first book of the New Testament, and chapter 24, somewhere around verse 15. This is that gospel. I am your host, and I am the host of this gospel. My celestial name is Mem Yud Kaf Yud Wafe. That, of course, is Hebrew. My name is created and made up of 5 Hebraic characters. 5. And 2 of the 5 are 2 sets of twins. They are identical. That creates 4. And they are from right to left. Mem Yud Kaf Yud He Wav He. And in English translation, they created that to become Mika Yahweh. Mika Yahweh, I'm the only one on the planet, the only one in existence with the name. I am the only one of the Celestial Lodge with the name. And of course, this name is powerful. This name was taken out of circulation hundreds of years ago. That was preyed upon by the European theologians of the world to be forgotten, and was also hidden from my people. And it also went through several formations of changes in various idioms, which includes Greek and English, as well as German, just to mention 3. At one time, my name was stripped to become only known as Mika, as it appears today in English, Mika. Also, they added the Elohim, and even abbreviated the Elohim and just left the EL as they added on to Mika, that then became Mikael, and also translated into English as Michael. Of course, Michael, the name Michael in English, means who is like God. Well, which God? And that is what the theologians worked very hard to do throughout history, to take away the name of the God or the theophoric extension from the end of my name. That means who is like Yud Wave. The theophoric extension of my celestial name is Yud Wave, the Tetragrammaton. And by stripping that, as prophecy said they would, in the book called Micah in chapter 1 and verse 8, they did just that. They stripped off the theophoric extension of my celestial name, and therefore I went naked. Not literally, not my physical body that was assumed to be naked, but my celestial name went naked with no clothing of the Yud Wavhe, and therefore left the whole world with only Mika. Praise Yud Wavhe for their obedience and fulfilling that prophecy. I'm not going to thank them. I'm just going to praise mine Ab, Yud Wavhe, for their obedience. That way, upon their obedience and as a result, I am here today to proclaim what was prophesied to be proclaimed and to bring back what was prophesied to be brought back to my people of Yisrael, which they also tried to hide that name, to be cut off, to become no more in remembrance to the planet Earth, or this planet that's called Earth. We didn't name it Earth. They named it Earth, 2 vowels, EA. But they also made an attempt to hide and cut that name off to be no more remembrance to my people. And we are here today to bring the name back, which is Yishra Yahweh, Yushin Resh Aleph Yudit Wavhe, Yishra Yahweh. This is the name that my soul gave to whom many only know in the English tongue as Jacob, in Hebrew known as Jacob. And I'm here today to set the record straight and to bring the record to pass. Bring what was recorded to pass, as it was promised that it shall come to pass. And now that I've introduced myself by one soul to those who are watching, those who may be listening, I have now a very special message that I'm going to present to this planet, the third from the sun. Praise the Lord. So sit back for a moment as we borrow some of your time that you have left. Try and relax, but most importantly, open your mind, open your ears, open your eyes, so that you can see that you cannot see, and so that you can hear what you have not heard. Again, this is the first of two that we invited you to join us tonight, that we host per week, as we continue to have an open discussion during our editorial. And we will give you that number that you can join us during our editorials as we host a Wednesday night's pre-session, and we also host a Sundays edition. Both times are as scheduled at 7 o'clock p.m. That's Eastern Standard Time, Eastern Board, New York and Florida time. Praise you, Wavhe. I repeat, this edition is in care of pre-session number 40 in order. And that, of course, continues from number 39 that we presented on this past Sunday evening. It also precedes number 41, as this volumetric of persistency continues to enable me and allow me to greet all 12 tribes of my people of Israel. And that includes those in the Middle East today, the 10 tribes that are left, that are hiding among those that are called ISIS, the Islamic State of Iran and Syria, and also Syria itself, that are hidden allegorically by that title. Praise the Lord. Today is the day that was promised to come. And my people today, who are known as Judah, are speaking the English language, that were taken captive by the English-speaking people and the Englishmen, the English settlers, that were given orders by their queen, English queen, the Queen of Great Britain, Elizabeth I, during the 16th century, that began during the 16th century. My people of Yehuda, the fourth tribe of Israel, are speaking English. And there's also another tribe that were taken by the French, known as the third tribe, that's called Lavi, also known as Levi in English. With that said and shared, I now say Shalom Aleichem to all of the children of Yudhed Wavhe, regardless of what tribe. All 12 tribes are the children. They are the children, the Beth Nun Sophie and the Bach Nun Sophie, the sons and daughters of Yudhed Wavhe. I say to all of ye and to you, Shalom, to the tribes that are being called Judah here in the United States of the Americas, as well as Lavi, that has now joined Judah from Haiti of the Caribbean, the Caribbean Ocean, an island that sits east in the Caribbean, Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Shalom Aleichem to ye too, Haiti, Lavi. But this Shalom Aleichem goes especially to the fourth tribe of Israel, which is the king's tribe of the other 11. Judah, the fourth tribe, is the king's tribe, Yehudah, of which that is recorded, and that recorded royalty is kept as preserved, as now read in the King James Version Holy Bible's book called First Chronicles, in chapter 28 and verse 4. Speaking of the King James Version Holy Bible, we are encouraging you now at this time to grab hold of your Bible. The most preferred would be the King James Version of 1611, the authorized edition. That is the Bible that we'll be referring to and reading from tonight. King James Version. Grab something to write with, although you have the pleasure, you'll be given the pleasure to pause. This is being recorded. You can pause what you're hearing and what you perhaps maybe visualizing right now. You cannot see me, you can only visualize me right now. So you may have time to pause it, rewind, and play again. If you do not comprehend or understand what's been said, you can repeat it by rewinding. But most importantly, just in case your electricity, your power goes out, as it's predicted to go out. We don't know when, but it is. It's going to go out. You think Venezuela was the only country that is going to and had experienced a power outage? Venezuela is a wake-up call. There's only a small example of what's going to succumb to this planet, especially the United States. You're going to suffer the very same thing. 22 of 23 states in Venezuela lost power for a few days. They didn't lose power, it was taken away. It was taken away from them. Notwithstanding, however, to the rest of the 10 tribes of our nation that are being called Yishra Yahweh, Yushiresh Aleph Yudwavhe, formerly known as Israel, and they are not those who I'm referring to that are over in the Middle East today. Benjamin Netanyahu, you are not part of this greeting, neither are you part of our nation. Israeli, you Israeli. You do not have the El in you. You do not have the El Elohim in you. This God, the God of the Hebrews, is not in you. You are an imposter. And I am here today, regardless of what language I speak, that you can comprehend, to set the record straight. And do not look at all that you are alarmed or you are surprised. You know, and ye know, that I was prophesied to come. What, you were trying to wish me away? You were trying to dream me away? You were trying to pray me away that I do not come? Well, I have some bad news for you and all of your people who are following you, Benny boy. I'm here. Your prayers did not work, even as you prayed to the wall, even as you bounced your head toward the wall to try and bounce me away that I do fall. Well, I did fall, but as I fell, I rised. Just like I said I would in the book called Micah chapter 7. In your scrolls, in your Torah, you can turn to the book called Micah Mem Yud Kaf He and read chapter 7 and verse 7 and 8 and 9. You'll see that I promise that when I fall, I shall arise. And as I sat in darkness, my God, my master, the God of the Hebrews, he shed his light in my soul and resurrected me right here in the United States of America, in the South, in the biggest city in the southeast of the United States, that it was prophesied that I would be raised and come out of a womb. But here I am. You could not pray me away. You could not wish me away, and you cannot hope that I go away. I am here, and I am here standing up for my people of Yisrael And you will soon have to vacate those palaces that you have invaded and trespassed in. You will vacate. You are going to leave. And I am not going to make you leave. You're going to be so happy to leave and get out of there until I won't have to make you leave. I have an extremely powerful force behind me. And you see them at night. You know the powerful force that is with me. And I am going to soon give the command, and they will obey my command. I'm the chief. I'm what you call the archangel of all of them. 20,000 as far as you know. You can read that in your Torah too, or in your King James Version Holy Bible, in a book called Psalms, the Psalms, in chapter 68 and verse 17. Azan Shema, She'edish Yesh. Azan Shema, Ye, Yehuda, Yaakov and Yisrael, Torah, Rabbah, Kara, Bo, El, Slon Elohim, Yudid Wav He. Azan, Slon Elohim, Yudid Wav He, Nathan 8th. I didn't forget. What, you think I'm a nigger? I am not a nigger. Neither are my people a nigger. You are not a nigger, Yehuda Yahweh. That's the world's best kept secret, our true history, and your language that I just spoke to you, that is Hebrew, and transliterated into the English language and translated into English language. We said, peace be unto ye. Hear, hearken to the remnant. Hear, hearken ye the remainder that there is of Judah, Jacob, and Israel. Thank you for calling. You are welcomed to come to your God, Yudid Wavhe. Hear, hearken to your God, Yudid Wavhe. The time has come, and these are the last days. The time has come. The kingdom of Yudid Wavhe is at hand. And to you, my people of Navi, the third tribe, I have not forgotten you, and neither are you left out. To my so-called Haitian people of Israel, who were captured by the French and the Spaniards in and during the 15th and 16th centuries, even the 17th century, and taken to Hispaniola. Bonjour la vie, merci beaucoup pour te rale non more la poire ou masse shalom aleichem from the Celestial Lodge. And as a reminder, once again I say, this precession is being recorded. And in case you could not comprehend or understand what was just said, then rewind it, play it back, audio or video. And this is session number 40. Yes, and as coincidental as it may seem, this 40 also represents a generation that started in 1979 of their Gregorian calendar. And now here we are, this night, this evening, on this side of the Earth's hemisphere, is the beginning of the third day of the first month in the 40th year from 1979. Although of our solar year, recorded now and known as 6022. Again, I repeat, this is the beginning of the third day, and I have risen. This is the third day, and I have arisen. I rise. E-Y-E, I shall rise, and I did. E-Y-E, rise. Didn't say who. Said I. Now, I am I. Remember you cough I. You did Wavhe. The third day of the first month in the solar year. Solar, the sun. 6022. And that's by the sun. And that's 6,022 years or so after Cain was given his chance to rule. Kana was given a chance for 6,000 years to rule, and he couldn't do it. He failed. Nevertheless, the sun is down, and the sun will rise again. And it is now known today on this side of the earth as Wednesday of their calendar, March the 13th. That's 13, Mem. I'm coming at you always. The third day, I'm coming at you by all of the ways that there is to come at you. by a third, and you place the one in front of the three, and now you have 13. Ma'am, it's not a coincidence. It was prophesied to take place and be broadcast today, 2019 of your calendar, of the moon calendar. Notwithstanding, however, this is our second sundown, the second sundown in care of our Passover observance and Feast of Unleavened Bread, where that is part of our law, not your law, not the one that you polluted, Benjamin. Israeli people, Benjamin Netanyahu and your people have polluted our law. You tried to hide it from us. You tried to keep it from us. But you cannot keep the truth away from the truth. It's ludicrous to think that you can keep the truth away from the truth. How could you keep the truth away from the truth? That's like trying to keep the negative away from the negative and the positive away from the positive. You cannot do that. It's ludicrous. It's impossible. For thereby, this is the truth, and you could not hide it. Praise Yahweh. It is our law, as we encourage you now to turn to the book called Exodus of King James Version Holy Bible. Turn to your Torah, the second book of the Pentateuch, Ben, of the Septuagint. Turn to the second book of the Septuagint. It's called Exodus in English, chapter 40. As I read verses 1 and 2, as I quote verse 1, and Yudhid-Wavhe, no Lord, which Lord, which God? Yudhid-Wavhe spake unto Moshe, saying, in verse 2, on the first day of the first month shalt thou set up the tabernacle of the tent of the congregation. And as I pause here for a moment, that tabernacle is not a physical tent or something that you take out in the woods that you use as a Boy Scout camping trip. This tabernacle is human. It's a being. And you are listening to that tabernacle, and you can see that tabernacle right now of the tent. The 10 that are missing from the other 2 that are here on this side of the earth of the congregation. Praise the Lord. I mean, just another moment or so, we're going to prove a lot to you tonight. As you can see here in this verse 2, as I just did, I just have, as a midrash. That was a midrash that you tried to hide. And in fact, if you look at it very closely in verse 2, there is no name mentioned by Yudhid-Wavhe to Moses, to Moshe for the first month. There's no January of the first month. Ma'ab Yudhid-Wavhe did not mention a name of the first month. Why? Because Yudhid-Wavhe did not name any of the 12 months of his solar and celestial calendar. For thereby, Abib is not a name of a month. And we're going to disclose what that means in a moment. But he did not name any of the 12 months of his solar and celestial calendar. Why? That's what you should be asking. You should wonder why. Well, because the first day of the first month is preserved for judgment upon the land, where the children of Yudhid-Wavhe will be in bondage, just like he promised in the book called Genesis in chapter 15, verse 14, as they were prophesied to be taken for 400 years in verse 13 of Genesis chapter 15, just like we were in Egypt in bondage. Here's Egypt repeated itself, only this time this land is spiritually being called Sodom and Egypt, according to Revelation chapter 11, verse 8. This land is spiritually being called Sodom, that has the same Sodom and wicked ways of homosexuality, and Egypt, that are holding my people captive in bondage by a modern day Pharaoh who's protecting the seat and the crown and the presidency. Only this time the president seat is being destroyed by the devil who you let in. You don't know that. Some of you do, but most do not. That's why I'm here. One of the reasons why I'm here, to set the record straight and to bring Hillel out of the bottomless pit. However, this is that day of judgment. And some people in the world, mostly Christians, they call it, quote, Judgment Day, end quote. And just like our last New Year around this same time last year of this Gregorian calendar, where we did not add 5 more sundowns onto the already 360 days a year count, we will do the same this year. We will not add 5 days onto the 360-day count. Why? Because the one who prophesied shortening those days for the elect's sake, or no flesh will be saved, as it reads in Matthew chapter 24 and verse 22, and Mark, the book called Mark, chapter 13, verse 20, that said he already done it. Well, it has now been fulfilled. That promise has been fulfilled. And we had not added those 5 days that the devils added onto our 360-day count, a perfect count from the beginning of Cain's rule, a perfect count of 360 days, 30 days and 12 months that we allotted Cain for 6,000 of those counts a year, 6,000 years. And that was a little over 6,022 years ago now. He is now living and ruling under a grace period, as they added those 5 days during the 9th century, those 5 days as an attempt to extend their time to rule. Your question should be now, are you in the right time? Are you in the correct time? That is yet to be answered and to be discovered. In other words, they want you to believe that the elect is to be destroyed with them. Why? Because they think the elect is more than one person. And in other words, when we say the, T-H-E in English, when we say the elect, we already disclosed who the elect is a few sessions ago. And for those who may have missed it, the elect is one per son of Yud-Wah-He. In fact, it was Yud-Wah-He, the God of the Hebrews, who raised this one per son up to become his elect, just as he'd also promised Moshe in the book called Deuteronomy, chapter 18, and verses 15 through 21, especially verse 18, and all the rest of those who are my people, those who are here with me, they are called the chosen. The rest were chosen. There's one elect, and the rest are chosen. And this very same quote, the elect, end quote, is the one who shortened those days, those 5 days. All others are imposters. All those who tried had no idea what it meant by shortening those days. They didn't know. They think it affected the clock. They think it has something to do with the clock. That by forwarding the clock 1 hour, or even forwarding the clock back, setting the clock back 1 hour, they thought that was shortening the days. It's a lie. Tonight, right now as I speak, is the same time as it was last week this time, 7 days ago. It's the very same time. No time short, no time longer. It's the same time. You are stuck on a clock. You are fantasized in a clock. You are loving the clock. You must admit that no one on this planet knew the mystery of how those days were to be shortened before they were, in fact, shortened by the one who sealed the mystery and loosed the shortening that was sealed by Daniel in the 7th chapter, verse 25. Daddy, y'all sealed it. And I loosed it, as I told him I would. And that's one of many reasons why I measured every single soul that comes in view of my soul and eyesight today. Why? Why did I do that? Why do I do that? Why do I measure every single soul that I instructed my disciples to do the same? According to Revelation chapter 11 and verse 1. Here's the answer. Because very soon, mine Ab, Yudawabhe, if not tonight, will be passing over this land to destroy up this land and his enemy. His enemy is mine enemy. Mine enemy is his enemy. I and my Ab and I, mine Ab and I are one. See that EYE. Mine Ab and I, EYE, are one. I do not do or deviate from his orders or commandments, keeping in mind that mine Ab, Yudawabhe, judgeth no man, but hath committed all judgment unto his son. And you can read that according to John chapter 5 and verse 22. And also according to John chapter 5 and verse 27, mine Ab, the Father, Yahweh, Yudawave, has given the Son authority to execute judgment also. Why? Because he is the Son of man. And since the one who is the Son of Man has that authority, then the Son also has the authority, as in SUN, that symbolizes the SON, to shorten the days back to 360, which is a perfect circle. And then historically refer to the first month by a name in the format of a metaphor. That name is a metaphor. It's not a name, it's a metaphor. And that name, that metaphor is called Abib. Abib. And this month, Abib, is the most official month. This month, Abib, is the most official month that also sanctifies all of the other 11 months. And that is why I must sanctify my disciples. My disciple and all of my people must be sanctified during this time before their Ab arrives, actually before he lands and come down. Keeping in mind that the eighth month is the most sanctified month of Udawave's 12 months solar calendar, in care of the 15th day of the eighth month, that constituted the commemoration of the coming forth out of a womb of Uduwafe, when Uduwafe came out of a womb that took place here on earth, as he came in the flesh, as the Lord was made flesh, the Word was made flesh. And that was during the solar year recorded as 5938, 5938, also known as October 27th, 1935. And last year, October 27th, 2018, commemorated the 83rd year that the Word was made flesh. I repeat, last October 27th of 2018 was the 83rd year of that commemoration of the Word that was made flesh as Yudhawavhe. As we do your math, your arithmetic, 8 plus 3. 8 plus 3, that's the third day, equals 11. And for the record, the 11th Hebrew symbol is known as Kaf. Kaf. We're going to use the power of Kaf tonight to reveal and disclose several prophecies that were sealed. Keeping in mind also that Kaf is the third angel of the 7 that also represents the third day and the third destruction of Babylon, the third destruction of a Babylon. So how does that affect the elect? Because Kaf is also the third Hebrew symbol of the elect celestial name, as we mentioned and introduced to you a few moments ago. Again, who is the elect? E-L-E-C-T in English. The elect is Mem, Yud, Kaf, Yud, Wav, He, 7 angels that are attached to one soul. And they are found inside of one soul, of one body. And with that said, let us take you back to earlier when we said that Lavi, the third tribe of Israel, the 12 tribes, Lavi is joined with Judah here in the United States. And Judah is now known as Yehuda Yahweh today. Yud He Wav Dalet Yud Wav He. So how did that come about? Well, before we answer that question, and with that said, please allow me at this time to once again introduce and reintroduce in retrospect all of those who are here today from and of the tribes called, quote, Judah, end quote, and, quote, Levi, end quote, also known as Lavi in Hebrew. That means that every single soul that was prophesied to be here today, this day, and carry out their own souls and hearts' contempt are all here today. And they're all going to fulfill, as many has done so already, was written and recorded by Daniel and now read in the book called Daniel, the King James Version Holy Bible, chapter 12 and verse 2. And would you believe that they too were here over 2,000 years ago? The same souls are here today that were here over 2,000 years ago. We're going to prove that too in a moment. And they're also doing the very same exact thing to me that they did before. They're doing the exact same thing that they did before, for the exception of one thing they're not going to do this time. They are not going to stone this body. Neither will they hang it on a tree. Not this time you won't. You will be destroyed. Even if you think of doing it, you're going to be killed. You better read Revelation chapter 11 and verse 6 and 7. Read verses 4, 5, 6, and 7 before you commit suicide, because you will suddenly be blown away like dung in the wind. And that's a promise. Meanwhile, you're doing the same thing, Judah, scribes and Pharisees, to me. In fact, Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise, and thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies, and thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Now, you may be wondering, you may have heard that before, and you can read it. In fact, we encourage you to turn to your Bible, the book called Genesis, the first book, Genesis, chapter 49. Turn to it. Genesis chapter 49. 9 and read with me again at verse 8. Verbatim. Verbatim. Read with me again. Genesis chapter 49 and verse 8. And that goes for all who can see and hear right now. Praise the Lord. Genesis chapter 49 and verse 8, as I quote again, Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. End quote. Now, here's a question. How can thy hand be in the neck of thine enemies? Let that soak in for a while. Think about that. How can thine hand be in the neck of thine enemies? Can you answer the question? I doubt very seriously if anyone on this planet can. The theologians in the past couldn't answer it. They could not. They couldn't answer the question. Can you? Thousands of men of Rome, of Greece, of England, of Germany tried to answer this question and tried to figure this out, this prophecy, especially England. How can thy hand be in the neck of thine enemy, Judah? This is being directed toward you. I mean, you have been reading this for years, the same verse, and have never stopped to think, how can that happen, right? In fact, go back and read that part again. Only after the colon. Read after the colon to the semicolon. As I do it for you, read with me as I quote again. Quote, thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies, end quote. Now, again, I ask the question, how can thy hand be in the neck of thine enemies? Keep it in mind that this is only one hand, one. I don't have an S in my Bible after the D of hand, H-A-N-D. I do not have an S. If you have an S in your Bible after the noun hand, H-A-N-D in English, then close your Bible and go get another one. Go get a King James Version, Holy Bible. You don't have the right Bible. We cannot wait for you to come back. That means you'll have to just catch up because we are on a schedule. But if you have S at the end, then you have the wrong Bible. That means that this hand refers to only one per son, and not the whole tribe of Judah, as you thought. Had this pertained to the whole tribe, then this prophecy would have read hands in plural. Do you not agree? It doesn't read hands in plural. Also keep in mind that this is Jacob talking to and prophesying to his fourth son, Yehudah, one-on-one, face to face, as all 12 sat there with him. And at the time, he was not talking to the whole tribe like we are speaking to the whole tribe of Yehudah today. This was only Yehudah by himself. In fact, he wasn't even married yet when this was given to him. They hadn't even went over into Egypt yet. There were only 70 souls that went into Egypt with Jacob. You can read that in Exodus chapter 1. somewhere around verse 7. Nevertheless, that takes us right back to the question of finding out who is this thy hand. And before that mystery can be solved, because now we have created a mystery for your mind, you must first search and locate the etymology and the root of thy, Thy. And that is made up of three English symbols, again known as T, H, and Y. And all three identifies who thy is. That is where your hand is. That is here as your hand. In fact, this very same thy, Thy, is teaching ye how you can become perfect, as thy, Thy, is perfect and not defect. And why is that so important for ye and you to become perfect? And why is that so important? Because you first thought that this hand is your hand, right? Yes, you did. Don't lie. You know, you thought it was your hand. Every single time you read this verse, you thought that this hand was your own hand. And you didn't realize that it was singular. Unless you are a one-armed man or woman. Are you a one-armed man or woman? You lost an arm or hand? And we're not picking at you if you did. We know that realize it could have been an industrial accident or some type of traffic crash. We're not picking on you. Your arm will take you as that way too. He'll take you. He'll even take you at one eye. I left record that if you have a bad eye, pluck it out. And he'll still take you. He'll give you another eye. Who you think created the eye, made it? Where you think the eye come from? If this mankind on earth can create technology to create an eye, well, my arm created him. Is he bound to this mankind here on earth? No. But since you thought that his hand was your hand, since you did that, but have you stopped to think which hand it is of your two hands that would be in the neck of thine enemies? You have two hands. Remember, you were born with two hands. Most, if not all of you, unless you had a birth defect, you're born with two hands. Or at least most people today have two hands. So since you thought this was your own hand, then which hand are you going to sacrifice? Your right hand or the one that is left? Because you have one. Once you use your right hand, don't forget, you also have one that is left. That's all you have left. One is left. Now here's another question. What has your hand been doing for your enemies while sojourning here in this land in bondage for the past 464 years? You know what I mean, right? Slavery began here in this land 464 years ago, at least around 1555, as they have record now. St. Augustine, Florida, the oldest city in Florida in the country. They sold the first so-called Negro slave in the year as early as 1554. Some say 1555, others say 1556. But it's the oldest city that sold the first so-called Negro slave in a slave auction market, a slave market. And they have that as a tourist attraction today in St. Augustine, Florida. Come to Florida and see. Go to St. Augustine and look for it and find it. And after you're done, then continue to travel south in Florida till you get to Miami and come and find me. Come look for me. Memud Coffee Waffle. Come look for me and stay. Don't just come look and leave and take a photo or image and shake my hand and then leave. Just gave you a hint. Don't come shake my hand and say shalom, ak, and leave. Take my hand and stay. Why? Because thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. You don't have no idea what that means, although I gave you a hint. I gave you a midrash. But what have your hand been doing lately, if you think this is your hand? Let me read that again, please. Let me read, because ye have been sleeping in the dust of the earth, and ye are just waking up to this mystery. Again, it reads, as I quote, thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies, end quote. Did you see it this time? You still think it's your hand? How powerful is your hand in order to do that? If this is your hand, not only do you want to know which hand you have in the neck of thine enemies, but how powerful is that hand? Because your enemy is extremely powerful, and you must have a powerful hand. In fact, you must have a great hand in order to defeat thine enemies. That's not one enemy either. This says enemies. It's more than one. I mean, it's not like Samson, like the jawbone of an ass that you can take and slew or slay 1,000 men. It's more than 1,000. This enemy is more than 1,000. And Samson, Shimshon, he was successful because he had a power behind him when he did that. He had a powerful source behind him when he did that, with the jawbone of an ass. And I have a lot of jawbones of asses right here with me today. Some of you want to be a jawbone of an ass around me. You want to come here with me and be a jawbone of an ass. Well, I'm not here for jawbones of asses. If you want to be an ass, go back in the forest with Baal, even Balaam. Because the ass saw me, but you couldn't. The ass can still see me, standing in the way of your path with a sword in my hand, and you can't see me. You're looking, but you can't see me. So how powerful is your hand that you have in thy enemy's neck? Well, okay, for the sake of the final time tonight of this subject, I ask all of ye the same question one more again. I'm going to ask you one more again, which is, how can thine hand be in the neck of thine enemies? End quote. In fact, now go back a few thousand years and place into the depth of your soul and your mind. Imagine what Jacob would have said to Judah, Yehuda. Because Jacob originally prophesied to Yehuda in Hebrew by using the Hebrew words Yad, Oreth, and Oyaf. Again, he used Yad, Oreth, and Oyap. Oyap. But that English theologian who transliterated this along with the 46 others of King James, they wrote that to read, actually printed. They transliterated that to read today, quote, thy hand, end quote. And then they also added, quote, thine enemies, end quote. Well, did you notice that? Did you notice that the verse read thy, Thy, and then thine, T-H-I-N-E in the same sentence, the same prophecy? If not, then let us point out to you tonight and ye that both serves an entirely different meaning. Thy, T-H-Y, is single, and thine, T-H-I-N-E, is its personal heritage. So who is this that thy hand is connected to a particular one? I repeat, because you wasn't hearing me, you were listening, but you was not hearing me. So I repeat, who is this thy that is connected to a particular hand? And those who were around me and studying, you know that this is not a question, because that who is the answer. Remember, I did not go up, I went down. So hear it again. I went down, I didn't go up. See, to go up, I would have said, who is this thy that is connected to a particular hand? I did not go up, I went down. I said, who is this thy that is connected to a particular hand? And that is not a question. Why? Because that who is the answer. Remember, this thy hand is scheduled to be here in the last days, that is connected to Judah. Right? Or have you forgotten that quick? That this is a prophecy that was given to Yehuda from Jacob, his Ab. This means that this thy hand is a particular thy hand that is also connected to Yudawave as his hand. And the thy, T-H-Y, and thine, T-H-I-N-E, is also connected to the pomp, P-O-M-P, that we introduced to ye and to the whole earth this past Sunday night. P-O-M-P, pomp. And we disclosed it on Sunday night. In fact, inside of that word, pomp, is found mem. And also the O that symbolizes the earth, that sits between two P's, which are symbols. Remember? P-O-M-P. Begins with a P, ends with a P. And this symbol P that you think is an alphabet is a symbol. It represents the top part of a man's lip. You can study this and look it up. You have encyclopedias. Look it up. I researched it and discovered it, and I found it. My op showed it to me, and I found it. Again, this P is a symbol, not alphabet. You may think it comes before Q, but this P is a symbol. You may think it comes after O and before Q, but it's a symbol. It represents the top part of a man's lip. But that's two P's, like two peas in a pod. That's two peas in a pod. That means two lips, or a lip that repeats himself. Two lips, one that repeats himself. There's only one lip, though this lip repeats himself. In other words, the first P, the first of the two P's, represents a living being that was once in a high position, looking down as he spoke down to one Hebrew woman in the Garden of Eden in the beginning. And the second P represents the very same high living being that is now in a higher position, as he is now speaking to many people while looking down among the beasts of the forest at this end time, just as promised in the King James Version Holy Bible's book called Micah in chapter 5 and verse 8. You can make a note and read that. Micah chapter 5 and verse 8. He's among many people today looking down and speaking down at them. Same one, two P's. The second P is also talking down to the whole world, not just the people in the forest, the whole world. You see him doing it. You are a witness. This means that the first P that's found at the beginning of POMP, P-O-M-P, not pump, POMP, that is the root of another word. But this POMP that is found in the book called Isaiah of the King James Version Holy Bible is found in Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 11. It also represents the English word known as president. President, P-R-E-S-I-D-E-N-T, president. As the O represents of, O-F, the M represents many, M-A-N-Y, and the second and final letter or symbol known as P that's found at the end of this English is prefix POMP, P-O-M-P, which is truly the root word of pompano, Pompano, P-O-M-P-A-N-O, that's known as a city in South Florida of the United States. It represents the English word known as people, P-E-O-P-L-E. And you can see that P is found twice in people, especially to a people that are dwelling on the east coastline of Florida, between Miami, the city called Miami, and Jacksonville up north. Miami in the south, Jacksonville up north, that was divided by Pompano Beach in the middle, remember? Even Palm Beach in the middle. Even as this same P take a break in the city called P or Palm Beach of Florida. The same P. In fact, please turn to that book called Isaiah. Turn to Isaiah chapter 14. Let's show you this as we read verses 11 and 12 again tonight. Isaiah chapter 8. As you read with me, as verse 11 says, and I quote, thy pomp is brought down to the grave. Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, comma. And I'm going to pause here with that comma as it's instructing. It instructs all readers to pause for a minute. So what do? You just read it and keep going? They placed that punctuation mark there for a reason, the comma. It means pause. And look at it. What do you see? Well, as we pause here, we're going to show you that this grave represents a place where the carcass of the lion is dwelling today, that was told in Genesis chapter 49 and verse 9 by the same Jacob to Judah. That's the carcass. That's where the grave is. That's that grave. It's got the carcass of the lion. And the same pomp, P-O-M-P, is now in the process. The same pomp is now in the process of being brought down to the place where the dead carcass of the lion is, that represents a tribe of people that are dwelling in Florida. Now we're going to read on with that said. Read on with us as we read and continue after the comma that says, and the noise of thy vowels. I'm going to pause here again. What is that? What is the vowels in English? VIOLS. What is that? Well, also in this verse, if you hadn't seen it yet, we came across the word thy, THY, again. And that is obviously connected to some kind of vowels, VIOLS. Well, this English word that you see here, read as vowels, VIOLS, came from the original Hebrew word known as nabel. Nabel. Now you can find this in your Strong Concordance under Strong's reference H5034. That's 5034. And it means to be senseless and foolish. That's what it means. Vowels, to be senseless and foolish. Nabal. Nabal. As we read on now, since we've now come across some senseless and foolish people, the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. Now that's worm twice. One is singular and one is plural. The first is singular and the latter is plural. What does that mean? Well, the first worm, singular, represents a decaying people, a tribe. The one tribe, that's what worm. One tribe that came during a process of time, they became decaying in a strange land that's not theirs. And so much until these decaying tribe of people are now found with a senseless and foolish mind that created a senseless and foolish people. And the second worms is of the pomp, POMP. And that is with the one man, they are with the one man who is on high, talking down to the people in his administration, who are senseless and foolish too, even as he speaks to them rashly and widely, even as he is being swallowed up himself, even as he begins to swallow up the rest, as he begins to be swallowed up. He swallows to bring them down to go into the bottomless pit with him. As he does, he also finds himself falling from heaven. As he does, falling from heaven. In fact, he has already fallen. Now read verse 12 and see for yourself that he has fallen. Verse 12 says, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning?" As I pause here again. See, that is not a question. This sentence ends with an exclamation point of the punctuation marks of the English's idiom. That means that this Lucifer, who's Hebrew, in fact, his Hebrew name is Hallel, spelled from right to left in Hebrew, He, Yud, Lamet, Lamet, Hallel. He had already fallen to the earth and must now be cast out into the earth, according to Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. And this also identifies who this mysterious pomp was. Pomp was that now is that has the top lip of rash and wild words, well-defined wild words that had fallen from heaven. And as he did, he came to the grave where people that are now down on the ground level, this people are now on the ground. They're down on ground level and they are sleeping, just as it was promised that they would be to the ground, brought down to the ground by their own God, Yudwabhe. That's found in Deuteronomy chapter 28. As I read on, you're going to see the truth. as it continues to say, how art thou cut down to the ground? There it is. Which didst weaken the nations. That's another explanation point. It's not a question, it's an act that happened. And that's all nations, not just Judah. That's the worms. Now, let's go back to the English word that subjected this whole journey, known as thy, T-H-Y. And let's see if we can get an answer to the question that we asked as follows. So pay attention. Now, this word, thy, or what appears to be an English's word, is not a word. You couldn't answer the question because it doesn't exist. It's not a word. These are, in fact, three English's symbols, T, H, and Y. How is that? Because what appears to be an English's word does not contain an English's vowel to make it part of their idiom. Comprehend? We pray that you can comprehend what we're disclosing to you tonight. In other words, in order for an English's word to be part of their vocabulary, it must become part of their vocabulary if they're going to use it. But in order for an English word to become part of their vocabulary during this modern day English language, as well as the Old English and Middle Age English, then it must possess at least one of their five vowels, A, E, I, O, or U. And this does not include Y, which is not theirs. Why? Because Y belongs to the Phoenicians that created it, that the English people stole, that represents the symbol of a tree, as well as a man holding up both of his arms toward heaven. That's the Y. In the meantime, what appears as a word, thy, T-H-Y, was transliterated from three Hebrew symbols. And those three Hebrew symbols are from right to left, Shin, Lamed, Kaf, Sophie, or the final Kaf. Again, from right to left, Shin, Lamed, Kaf, Sophie, which is the final Kaf. And these, now you're not going to find this in your concordance. I have books and books in my library, even in Hebrew, and dictionaries in my library that my told me to look for, and I found. As I did, I found these three Hebrew symbols in one book. Three Hebrew symbols, Shin, Lamed, Kaf, Sophie, that created the Hebrew word known as Shilkah. Shilkah, or it is spelled from left to right, Shilkah. You can look it up. You can write it down, look it up. Spelled from left to right in English letters. Shelcha, or you may find it as Kha, the last three letters, to get the K sound. Shilkah. Keeping in mind that the first Kaf, see, there's two Kaf. You have a first Kaf and you have Kaf Sophie, the final Kaf, just like Mem and Mem Sophie. And that all two of those empowers the first and the last that you read in Revelation that said, I will be the first and the last, my soul. You have Kaf, Kaf Sophie, Mem Sophie, the first and the last. But the first Kaf is the third Hebrew symbol of my celestial name. So this means that the final Kaf, or Kaf Sophie, is also connected to my soul. And is also connected to this mysterious hand. Single. Nevertheless, This Hebrew word, shilka, it means a second person singular that expresses possession that belongs to one person. Now you can find this if you can find the book. I had this book for years. It's a dictionary. It's called the Webster's New World Hebrew / English Dictionary by Chaim Belson, with the copyright of 1992. That's about how long I had this dictionary. You can find it on page 787. Shilka, Sheen Lamet Kof. Sheen Lamet Kof. This means that this thy, Thy, is one person who is of and from the ancestral lodge of Yudawavhe, even as this Hebrew word was used by Hebrew scribes back in the days to address the Christ and his ownership to many things, like his own disciples. Now, this also means that the New Testament is filled with this English symbol known as thy, Thy, that you thought was a word. And that means that every place where this symbol is read in the New Testament is referring to the Christ being addressed by someone who was pointed out to him or asking him of something or someone or a group of a people that he owned. Now, to prove it, because we're going to prove it, we come with peace and the truth. So we come with the spirit of truth. So let us give you the truth, and let us present to ye and to you tonight a perfect example of this meaning of the English word thy, Thy, shilka, that came from the original Hebrew word, shilka, again spelled from right to left, Sheen Lamet Kof Sophie. We're going to ask you now to turn to the book called Matthew, which is the first book of the New Testament. Turn to Matthew, that is filled with this word, thy, Thy. And we're going to give an example from chapter 15. Matthew chapter 15, beginning at verse 1. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you a testimony. See, the word testament comes from the word testimony, as a witness. Now I'm going to read to you a testimony that was written by the very same soul of thy. As verse 1 says, then came to Mem Yud Kaf Yudawafe. If you have in your Bible a Spaniard God named, then that's a lie. There's no such Spaniard in Hebrew. We do not have Spaniards in Hebrews. We do not have Greeks. It's Hebrew. And we do not have Spanish people from Spain. It's Hebrew. But the scribes, the Pharisees came to Mem Yud Kaf Yudawafe, which were of Jerusalem, saying, see, they were of Jerusalem. This means that they were Hebrew, not English. So this means that they spoke, they wrote, and they understood, comprehended Hebrew. They read Hebrew. So use Hebrew words when writing and speaking to the Christ. As verse 2 says, why do thy disciples, see, there's thy, why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? And they were speaking of themselves as elders. Although here you see how the liars of Europe have the whole world believing that this thy, Thy, is another form of your, Y-O-U-R in English. Well, is it, you liars? No, it is not. Why? Because this thy is the very same thy that Jacob used in Genesis chapter 49 and verse 8, when Jacob said to his son, Yehuda, again, quote, thy hand shall be in the deck of thine enemies, end quote. This means that this thy, T-H-Y, is referring to the Christ of Yudawavhe, who is that hand of Yudawavhe. Praise Yudawavhe. And as we read on, I'm going to read from the beginning of verse 2 again, so you can keep up. Verse 2 again, from the beginning. And I quote, why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. Period. See, now here they put these hands that you are all right away. You go to your mind, you're thinking they're the same hands that are attached to your human anatomy. But these hands are not literal, that are part of the human anatomy, but is an allegory that represents a people who are helping his disciples as they bring power of the word, that is the bread to eat. Give us this day our daily bread, the word, as they brought the word to the people of Jerusalem back in their days. And that also explains the word they, T-H-E-Y in English, that is in the same verse. And notice how the word they, T-H-E-Y, is found with the vowel E that supports the T, the H, and the Y. Now, had the E, the vowel E, not been placed here in this word T-H-E-Y, then you would have thy, T-H-Y. And that's what we meant earlier when we said that if it's an English word, it must contain a vowel. And this is not the word thy. The word is they. And that is the subject. Thy is the subject, but they is the word. But unlike thy, T-H-Y, that shows possession and ownership, this they, T-H-E-Y, claims employee personnel. And because these hands were helping his disciples, then the scribes and Pharisees was obviously having a problem with them upon being jealous, just like today. Now read the answer that the Christ replied to them in verse 3 that says, but he answered and said unto them, why do ye also transgress the commandment of Yudawavhe by your tradition? See, they were not of the belief of the gospel of Yudawavhe, just like today. They have their own agenda and religion, just like today. As verse 4 says, for Yudawavhe commanded, saying, honor thy Ab and thy aim, thy father and thy mother in English. I'm going to read verbatim because that takes up another subject, father and mother. So I'm going to read verbatim. And he that curseth father or mother, let him die the death. Verse 5, but ye say, whosoever shall say to his father or his mother, it is a gift, by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, and honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. Thus have ye made the commandment of Yudawavhe of non-effect by your tradition, ye hypocrites. Well, did Isaiah prophesy of you, Yasias? Did he prophesy of you as he said, this people draweth near unto me with their mouth, and honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. But in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. Well, Who was it that said that? He's asking them. Who said that? And who was he speaking of? Isaiah, Yahshua. Although here you see that the Christ himself is talking to those hypocrites back then, just like he is doing today, and also challenging them, even accusing them to be wanting to be him. At one point, he accused them to the point that they want to be me. They want to be him. Is this not what the Christ is doing today, here, today? Even as he's doing here in this verse 9 by calling verse 8 by calling them hypocrites. In verse 7, the same thing, accusing them. The very same thing happened today. Is not what they're doing. Find out and monitor them. You'll see. Even calling them a bunch of wannabes. Well, turn to that and read that too. Paul, put a marker here in Matthew chapter 15 and turn to the book called Isaiah. Let's see how we can trace this and see who it was that Isaiah was speaking of when he wrote it. Turn to Isaiah chapter 29 and let's see. We're going to read verse 13. Isaiah chapter 29 verse 13. As that says, I quote, I'm going to quote verbatim. Wherefore the Lord said, now here you see Lord, and that's a lowercase O-R-D followed by the capital L, the uppercase L, lowercase O-R-D. That means that this is the Christ speaking to Isaiah. You thought the Christ only spoke in the New Testament? The Christ spoke from the book called Genesis all the way to the book called Malachi. He spoke in all 40 books of the prophets. And you may think there's 39, but the book called Revelation is not a book of the New Testament. It's a book of the prophets. He spoke to all 40, in all 40. As it goes on to say, for as much as this people draw near me with their mouth and with their lips do honor me, but have removed their heart far from me, and their fear toward me is taught by the precept of men. End quote. And that is true. Do you not agree? That is true. So that's who Isaiah was speaking of, the Christ. Mem Yud Kaf Yud Waf He. And he even asked them again. He asked them in Matthew. Let's go back now to Matthew chapter 15, where your marker was. And I'm going to read verse 7 again, you hypocrites. Did Isaiah prophesy of you? As we just read, was he prophesied of you? No, he was not. He prophesied of the Christ. Praise the warfare. Now I'm going to skip and go down because of our scheduled time to verse 10. And he called the multitude and said unto them, hear and comprehend. Not that which goeth into the mouth defileth a man, but that which cometh out of the mouth, this defileth a man. Every single thing that cometh out of your mouth defileth a man. Man. Then came his disciples and said unto him, knowest thou that the Pharisees were offended after they heard this saying? I can care less. In fact, verse 13 says, but he answered and said, every plant which my heavenly Father hath not planted shall be rooted up. Let them alone. They be blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall in the ditch. Then one of my disciples said unto him, declare unto us this parable. You don't know what it means? Well, here today I'll explain it. Are you also yet without comprehending even today, Yehudi Yahweh? Do not ye comprehend that whatsoever entereth in at the mouth goeth into the belly, which is the soul, that will always say the same filth out of their mouth, even today as they come back, that those who you hear that come out of their mouth, that's the soul of the same person that said it to you before, and is cast out into the drought of the bowel movement, their own bowel movement of the drought. Even as they become constipated, whenever they do go to have a bowel movement, it comes out of their mouth. But those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart. So whatever they say to you in the heart, it comes from their mouth, it comes from their bowels, from their soul, and it defiles the man. For out of their mouth and out of their heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witnesses, blasphemers. These are the things which defile the man. But to eat with unwashen hands, who are not my disciple, defileth not a man. Even as you depart into the coasts of the east coast of Florida today, and behold, even as a woman of the United States of America come out of the same coast of the east coast, as they cry, as she cried unto me from Pensacola, even as one cried to me of her daughter, have mercy, she said to Mem Yudawafe, thou son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with the devil, and I tried to help her, and I blessed her, but I still answered her not a word, not the word that she should, not the daughter. Even as the disciples came and besought me and tried to talk me out of it, and said, send her away, for she crieth after us. But I still answered and told even one from the middle of the United States of America, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Even if you are a Gentile and you say that your soul was made and created and born to love my Yahweh, I'm only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, not you, Gentiles. You liar, you. Who you think I am? Even she came and worshipped in secret on the telephone, saying, Lord, help me. Help me find a place where I can live and work. You are a liar. I'm telling you in your face tonight. I pray you get the recording and you can hear it. You are a liar. Where are you? Is it not meet to take the children's bread, my people, and to cast it to the dogs? What you going to say to me? Is it truth? Yet the dogs eat the crumbs which fall from the master's table. O woman, great is thy faith, but even as thou wilt, I'm only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And you will not be made whole again until you repent and stop lying to me. No matter if it's an hour or a day or a year, if you want to be saved, you best repent. That way I will spare your life. You don't lie to me. Depart from me. Even as I go into the sea on the east coast of this Galilee and go up to the government of the United States, and I sat down. I'm going to sit down. Even as a great multitude will come and see. Even them, those that were lame, that could not walk, are going to come. Those who were blind and could not see the word, as I showed tonight. Those who could not walk on their own and needed help as I grabbed their hand and walked them across the street on a 6-lane highway. Those who were dumb and had no knowledge of how to read the Bible or even comprehend it. Those who were maimed and thought they had no hope in life. And many others of other nations will come as I cast them down and they come down to my feet and be healed. I'm going to heal them, insomuch until the multitude that will come will wonder. And even as they see the dumb people, even as they see the dumb speak, they're going to wonder how they learn how to speak that, even in Hebrew, even the whole of them, the lame to walk, the blind to see, and those that will glorify my Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews of Israel, as I call my disciples unto myself. And I say to you tonight, my disciples, I have compassion on the multitude because they continue with me now on this third day of the new year, and yet they have nothing to eat. But I will not send them away fasting, lest they faint in the way. And I will give them nourishment. I will give them the manna from heaven that I brought with me that was hidden in the wilderness for 40 years of this 40th year from 1979, as whence you have now come with me of this bread in the wilderness, as to fill so great a multitude of people, and I have enough. How many loaves have ye here? And even if you think it's 7, that's for every day of the week. Mem Yud Kaf Yuavhe. And I also have a few little fishes from Pompano that you call Pompano. And they are also the family of Jacksonville. I have Pompano fish. In verse 35, you who are lost, I'm teaching you how to walk. Walk with me, multitude, and sit down on the ground as I take the 7 loaves from Mem Yud Kaf Yuavhe and Pompano and give thanks to Mount Yahweh for bringing you. And I also give to my disciples, the multitude of them, that they also will eat. And I fill, and they will be filled. And you also are my disciples to take what is left of the bread and fill it in the baskets and make them full so you can share it with my people as a hand. Even 4,000 men, or even 144,000. And that's not including the women and children. And I'm going to send them away, the multitude. And it will be a ship. You'll see the ship. Look up at night as I come to the coast of Miami, Magdala. Praise Yahweh. You didn't know what that meant. There's only one soul who can interpret and explain it, the one who hid it and wrote it, sealed it. Now go back to the book called Genesis chapter 49. As we began, the prophecy that was given to Yehuda from his Yaakov in verse 8, as once again, as we begin to close this revelation, this disclosure, as I quote once again, verse 8, Judah, Yehuda, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. End quote. This neck is a figurative neck. That thy hand is the Christ. And that figurative neck came from the original Hebrew word known as oreph. Oreph. And that word oreph, it means apostasy. Apostasy. And this apostasy is a good thing. It refers to those of Judah who will become Yehuda Yahweh. How? By fulfilling Revelation chapter 2, verse 17, after returning to their own God, Yudawaphe. This word apostasy, if you grab your dictionary, as I grabbed mine, and share with you that this word apostasy in English is defined in the Merriam-Webster's dictionaries, all of them, as, quote, an act of refusing to continue to follow, obey, or recognize a religious faith. That's definition number 1. Abandonment of a previous loyalty, that you would become defection. Also, the abandonment or the renunciation of a religious or political belief. So how is it that thy hand, which is thy, I am the thy, and thy hand is Uave, and the neck is you refusing to continue to follow other religions, that you have returned to your own Ab, Uave, and you will obey, recognize his commandments, judgments, laws, and statutes, as you will no longer follow a previously false religion. You have abandoned that false religion, and your renunciation of your own Hebrew culture, as you will be in thine enemy's land. You'll be in thine enemy's land. See thine enemies right in thine enemy's land, as I prepare a table before you, right in the presence of thine enemies. That is the mystery of Genesis chapter 49 and verse 8. And no one on this planet knew the mystery to that until it was disclosed by the one it was given to, by Mount Ab, Udawafe, fulfilling Revelation chapter 1 and verse 1. I want to thank you who tuned into this video, as we now announce to those who are listening that all the time tonight, this is being recorded on YouTube. I'm going to download it so that it can fulfill prophecy that's also in Revelation chapter 1 and verse 7. That all eyes will see, every eye will see who tunes in, that I'm here. And you don't have to, and we're not here to convince you. You don't have to believe it. But I encourage you to find someone who can do what I just did, with the very spirit of my Ab that's dwelling in this body that you see and that you can view on this television. Your television, your laptop, desktop. Praise the Wafe. All you have to do to prove that I'm not him is to bring to your people and prove to your people the one who is him. Praise the Wafe. We have more to come. I greet to my people as I end this stream. I'm going to say to my people over in the Middle East, as Lakim Shalom, She'edi Yesh, come to and return to your Yudawafe, and make room for Yehuda, your kings and your queens of this planet. I'm in Miami or Florida. I'm not hard to find. I'm not hiding. I'm not hiding. I may be incognito, but I'm not hiding. You know where I am. You knew all the time where I am. Praise the Wafe. And Lakim Shalom. For those